but they did have a place. Week 6, we'll talk about the big scandal that happened at the Disney Studios where the big strike came on, and thusly what they call the UPA School of Animation came into existence. And, the interesting thing about that is that the government, I'll make this very short, the government at that particular time, the subject of McCarthyism was in, and the government was kind of feeling that most people in the motion picture industry were either communists or they were suspected as communists. When they approached the Disney Studios, Walt Disney, being of German descent, decided that he would actually give the government officials all of the people who were of German descent. He would just give them their names and their addresses and their phone numbers. When they asked him, well, do you think that they're communists? I think they are. Which was bad, very bad, because these were men who were working for Walt Disney, and they were helping, and they felt slighted. They felt like, how come you didn't give them your name? You didn't give them your name, you're German, why didn't you give them your name too? I grew up here in America. So, after these guys went through a Senate hearing, and their names were cleared, they decided not to go back to the Disney Studios, and they formed their own studio. And thusly, what they call the UPA School of Animation came into existence, where they wanted to target this new thing that was just starting to come into the homes of middle class and just the general homes in America, which was television. Television, when television first came on the scene, a lot of people, and I hate to say it, but a lot of people in America were afraid of it. There was a fear that grew around television, and the fear was that if you watched something on this little small screen, after 5 o'clock, it would take your spirit. So they never aired any shows. After 5, there was nothing. All you had was radio. That's all you had. There was no TV. Even though TV was in place, and they had NBC Blue and NBC Red, two primary networks, and they agreed, which was really ironic. They agreed that at 5 o'clock maybe we shouldn't air, because that could be true. We don't know. Why take a chance? What do you want to do? Everybody is dead. What are you going to do that for? And so they went about in that direction, which was very unrealistic. But later it changed. But for a moment, I wish I could have lived in that time period. That would have been kind of weird, because the television screen was a bubble. It was a little box there. It was a bubble. And you watch these few shows. Animation found its way in through advertising, through commercials. They found their way in. And then once they were in, they started to air cartoons. The very first cartoon was Gerald McBoinville. The very first cartoon. Gerald didn't talk; he just made sounds. And I actually have one of the very first Gerald McBoinvilles. We're going to see one of those. He's kind of like a host. He hosts, and they talk a lot about different things. And later came Mr. Magoo, which was probably the most celebrated cartoon of its time. And Betty Boop would have been the next big major cartoon character, but as history points out, Betty Boop was undermined by the studios themselves. All of the rival studios felt that the character Betty Boop was just a little bit too appealing to actually have their characters, alongside of this character. This character was getting notoriety at a very fast pace, so fast that it scared even Disney, And so the studios conspired to actually get rid of the cartoon. They said that they sent letters to the government saying that the cartoon was controversial. It was going to hypnotize the minds of young girls. into thinking that it would be better for them to be in provocative attire and for them to actually do the things that the cartoon character was doing. And they got the government to actually agree to their suggestions to the point that they said, well, maybe we should take that off the air. And so Betty Boop actually came into existence and had a very short lifespan, and then it tried to come back into existence again, and then, you know, I guess it was just too late or something. The interesting thing about Betty Boop is that Betty Boop is a character, and believe it or not, that started as a dog. Betty Boop was a dog. That's the reason why the little dog with the Betty Boop character, that dog is Betty's boyfriend. What they decided to do is they had two dogs. At first it was two dogs, two animated dogs, and that was the cartoon. Somebody in the studio said, well, what if we took and made one of the dogs to a human? And I even have I'll show you that, where they actually merged the two characters together and created Betty Boop. So, and that's why when you ask, you know, well, how come she always has that little dog with her? Also week 6 we'll talk about we'll talk about your topic for your final paper. In this class, your midterm is going to be probably the most interesting midterm ever. Some of you are probably saying, there's no way you can top some of your other tests. There's a way. There's a way.
Really?
This midterm, we're going to all take it together. Okay? We're going to all take the midterm together. There'll be no way that you can fail this midterm. The only way you can fail is unless you don't put your name on that paper. If you don't put your name on the paper, you're probably going to fail. You're probably going to fail. And like I say to other classes, in the event that you're taking the test, you can't remember your name, ask somebody next to you. Hey, what's my name? Whatever they tell you, just write that down. Now, I'll know that that's not your name, but by process of elimination, okay, this must be so-and-so. Okay. I know there's nobody with this name here. You know, but yeah, and your final, I'll show you examples of the final exam, or it's not an exam, or your final project. Your final is, you're going to do research on an animation. Anything in animation. It could be research on a particular piece of equipment. It could be research on a process that's used in animation. It can be research on anime, or it could be research on a comic strip. It could be research on a particular person in animation. And I'll reiterate when we get to that point again, but don't make it research on, I'm going to do my research on Pixar. And then you do the development, the full development of Pixar from when they started at ILM with George Lucas all the way until the collaboration with Disney. That's a lot of research. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot. We're not going to be able to, I'm just going to be honest with you. You know, look around. Everybody right now seems to be pretty friendly, and they're okay with everybody else. But trust me, week 10, week 11, your classmates, their attitudes change. It's uncanny, I'm telling you. The people who present week 10, I'll just make this agreement with you. If you present week 10, then yes, you don't have to come week 11. I won't mark you absent. But I'm asking you, as a favor to the rest of the class, it would be nice for you to come and support your classmates, even though I know you're not going to do that. You know, you're going to give it some thought. Too bad. I don't care. I don't care what they do. It'd be nice just to see your face, you know, when your classmate is up here and they're presenting theirs. Hey, so came. All right, cool. You know, but I know you're not going to do it. No, I already presented. So. You know. But that's and that's okay. But the point I was getting at is that if you make a long presentation, the presentation can be done 2 different ways. It can be like a hard copy where you actually type some information up and you have like some pictures to go along with it, or it can be a PowerPoint. If by chance you do a PowerPoint,